Stonehenge stands as a silent question written in stone. We are told it is a masterpiece of ancient human engineering, a monument built by our Neolithic ancestors over 5,000 years ago. But what if that story is only half true? What if the clues point to a far more extraordinary explanation? This is the world's most famous prehistoric mystery, and today we are confronting its most provocative idea. Was Stonehenge built by aliens? By the end of this journey, you will have the full story, weighing the compelling evidence for human genius against the tantalizing case for otherworldly intervention. We will explore how 80-ton stones might have traveled 20 miles, decode a celestial calendar carved from rock, and examine why this idea has captured our imagination for decades. The truth is more complex and fascinating than you might expect. What do you believe is humanity's greatest untold story? The true heart of the mystery lies not in the smaller stones, but in the towering circle of giants that give Stonehenge its iconic silhouette. These are the Sarsen stones. To stand beside one is to feel a profound sense of scale. Each is a monolith of almost unimaginable density, averaging 25 tons. That is the weight of 5 adult elephants carved from a single block of rock. Their journey began in the Marlborough Downs, a quarry site over 20 miles to the north. For a moment, try to picture that distance not on a map but on the ground. 20 miles of rolling, uneven terrain, dense forests, and unpredictable rivers. Now imagine moving a 5-elephant stone across it, not once, but over 80 times. The logistical puzzle this presents is staggering. Mainstream archaeology offers a plausible, human-scale solution. The prevailing theory suggests our ancestors used a combination of wooden sledges, greased with animal fat, placed atop a track of felled logs that acted as rollers. Teams of hundreds would have hauled with ropes made from plant fibers, inching each stone forward in a monumental feat of coordinated labor. It is a testament to human ingenuity, cooperation, and sheer determination. Yet the scale of the operation invites a quiet, persistent question. Organizing such an effort across decades without written language, with only basic tools, to achieve such perfect geometric and celestial alignment, pushes the boundaries of what we believe possible for that era. The Sarsen stones are not just rocks, they are a statement. The question is who was making it, but the Sarsen stones are only half the story. The real enigma lies within them, in the smaller, inner circle of stones with a color and character all their own. These are the Bluestones. Their journey makes the 20-mile trek of the Sarsen seem almost local. These stones, a distinctive spotted dolerite rock, did not come from anywhere in England. They originated in the Preseli Hills of southwest Wales, a staggering 150 miles away. That distance is not just a number on a map, it is a monumental chasm of geography, separating two completely different landscapes. To understand the scale, picture walking from London to Manchester, all while carrying a 2-ton rock. Now imagine doing that in the late Stone Age, with no roads, no wheels, and no beasts of burden. The sheer audacity of this undertaking is what truly baffles archaeologists and fuels endless speculation. How did stones from a specific Welsh mountain range end up at the heart of England's most sacred site? Mainstream science offers two primary and hotly debated explanations. The first is a theory of natural forces. Some geologists propose that during the last ice age, vast glaciers could have acted as a giant, slow-moving conveyor belt. As these ice sheets advanced and retreated, they might have plucked the Bluestones from the Preseli Hills and deposited them much closer to Salisbury Plain, saving our ancestors the full 150-mile haul. It is an elegant solution, a gift from nature that reduces the engineering puzzle to a more manageable scale. The opposing theory insists on human agency. Proponents argue for a deliberate, epic voyage of cultural significance. They envision teams moving the stones overland to the Welsh coast, loading them onto massive, unstable log rafts, and navigating the treacherous waters of the Irish Sea and the Bristol Channel before a final overland journey. Each step of this proposed route is fraught with risk and represents a technological leap that many find difficult to attribute to that era. This unresolved debate, this clash between glacial chance and heroic human effort, leaves a gap in our understanding. And into that gap flows the most provocative question of all. If moving these stones was this impossibly difficult for Neolithic people, then who or what possessed the capability to do it? The Bluestones are not merely construction materials, they are a mystery wrapped in a journey, and their very presence whispers of a truth we have yet to fully uncover. The journey of the stones is only the beginning of the mystery. Once those colossal blocks arrived at Salisbury Plain, an even greater challenge began, the challenge of assembly. This is where Stonehenge transforms from a pile of giant rocks into an architectural marvel. Look closely at the iconic trilithons, the great doorways of stone. Each horizontal lintel does not simply rest on top of the uprights. It is locked into place with a level of precision that would impress a modern engineer. The builders carved rounded knobs called tenons on the top of each upright stone. Then they carved matching hollows called mortises into the underside of each lintel. These are not rough fits, they are carefully shaped stone joints, a technique borrowed directly from woodworking. But they did not stop there. Each lintel stone is also connected to the next in the circle with another woodworking trick, the tongue and groove joint. One lintel has a protruding ridge carved along its end, and the next has a perfectly matched slot. When joined, they form a continuous, interlocking ring of stone suspended high above the ground. This is not haphazard construction. This is sophisticated stone carpentry of the highest order. Now hold that image in your mind, a perfectly fitted stone ring held together by precise joints. Then consider the tools available. This entire monument was shaped, dressed, and joined using tools made of stone, bone, antler, and wood. There were no iron chisels, no metal saws, no laser levels. To achieve such flawless geometry and seamless connections with such basic implements requires not just immense manpower, but an almost supernatural level of skill, patience, and pre-planning. Every tenon had to be envisioned before the first hammerstone struck. Every mortise had to be calculated to a fraction of an inch. The knowledge required for this precision engineering seems to belong to a much later age. So we are left with a profound question. Was this the brilliant, hard-won innovation of a determined Neolithic culture, developing secret techniques over generations? Or does this leap in technical sophistication hint at a guiding intelligence, a blueprint from a source that possessed knowledge far beyond the Stone Age? The joints of Stonehenge do not just hold stones together, they hold the key to a debate about the very origins of human genius. This precision in stonework finds its ultimate purpose in the sky. The stones are not merely a structure, they are a machine for measuring the heavens. The most famous alignment is undeniable. Stand in the center of the circle on the morning of the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, and you will witness a spectacle planned millennia ago. The sun rises directly over the heel stone, a solitary sentinel placed outside the main circle, its first rays shooting down the avenue and flooding the heart of the monument with light. It is a perfect, deliberate line of sight, but the celestial choreography does not end there. During the winter solstice, the shortest day, the setting sun aligns perfectly in the opposite direction, framed by the grand central trilithon. This was not a lucky accident. The entire layout of Stonehenge, its axis, its openings, seems engineered to capture these pivotal moments in the solar year. For an agricultural society, these were not just pretty sunrises, they were vital, life-giving signals. The solstices marked the turning points of the seasons, telling people when to plant, when to harvest, when to prepare for the lean winter months. Some researchers go further, suggesting the 56 Aubrey holes that circle the site could be used as a primitive calendar, a way to track not just years but lunar cycles and even predict eclipses. This points to a deep, hard-won knowledge of astronomy, painstakingly observed and recorded over generations. It is evidence of a sophisticated Neolithic mind, a culture deeply connected to the rhythms of the cosmos. Yet, this very sophistication raises a profound paradox. How did a people without written language, without advanced mathematics, without telescopes, achieve such precise and lasting astronomical alignment? To map the solar year onto a landscape of multi-ton stones requires more than patient observation. It requires a system, a method of translating celestial movements into permanent earthly monuments. The accuracy is so consistent it feels less like trial and error and more like applied knowledge. So we must ask, where did this blueprint come from? Was it the product of centuries of shamanic stargazers passing down secrets through oral tradition? Or does the perfection of these alignments suggest the influence of a teacher, a source that already understood the mechanics of the solar system? The stones point to the stars, but who gave them the directions? This idea of a teacher from the stars is not a new one, but it found its modern voice in the late 1960s. A Swiss author named Erich von Däniken published a book titled Chariots of the Gods. Its central premise was as simple as it was revolutionary. He argued that ancient monuments like Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, and the Nazca lines were too advanced for the primitive cultures credited with building them. The only logical explanation, according to his view, was direct intervention from extraterrestrial visitors. These beings, mistaken for gods by our ancestors, provided the missing technology and knowledge. For Stonehenge, the theory offered a clean, if extraordinary, solution: the impossible journey of the Bluestones, the precise stone carpentry, the flawless astronomical alignment. All of it could be explained if an advanced civilization with anti-gravity devices or laser tools showed our ancestors how it was done. Von Däniken's book was a publishing sensation, tapping into a deep public fascination with space travel and the unknown. It framed these ancient wonders not as testaments to human ingenuity, but as puzzles that humanity could not possibly solve on its own. This idea did not stay confined to the pages of a book. It exploded into popular culture, most visibly through the long-running television series Ancient Aliens. The show, with its iconic talking heads and dramatic speculations, presented the alien hypothesis as a series of compelling what-if scenarios. It asked the audience to reconsider everything they thought they knew about history. Through this lens, Stonehenge became a potential landing pad, a power plant, or a cosmic message left in stone for future generations. The theory's power lies in its simplicity. It fills every gap in our archaeological knowledge with a single, thrilling answer, but this raises a critical question. Does explaining away the mystery actually rob our ancestors of their greatest achievement? The alien theory offers a seductive shortcut to solving this colossal transportation puzzle. Proponents of this idea look at the 80-ton Sarsen stones and the 150-mile Bluestone journey and see not a human challenge but an impossibility. They argue that the sheer physics involved break the known capabilities of Neolithic society. How could people using ropes of twisted plant fibers and log rollers possibly negotiate steep hills, thick forests, and wide rivers with such immense loads? The alien explanation fills this gap with spectacular technology. Imagine, they suggest, not hundreds of straining workers, but a silent, humming craft. Advanced beings could have employed anti-gravity devices, effortlessly floating the stones above the terrain like balloons. Others propose acoustic levitation, using precise sound frequencies to vibrate the stones and reduce their effective weight to nothing. Some even envision powerful tractor beams or machinery that could slice and move multi-ton slabs as easily as we lift bricks. These are not tools of the Stone Age. They are instruments of a civilization that mastered physics in ways we are only beginning to dream of. This vision is clean, powerful, and eliminates the mess of human struggle entirely. It transforms the landscape from an obstacle into a mere backdrop for a superior technology. Now hold that image of silent, effortless stone flight. Then set it beside the archaeological counterpoint. Mainstream researchers paint a very different, far grittier picture. Theirs is a world of immense, tangible effort. It is the sound of hundreds of voices chanting in rhythm, the smell of animal fat greasing wooden sledges, the sight of teams painstakingly laying and relaying a track of logs. It is a story of communal ingenuity where problems like river crossings are solved with ingenuity, not magic, perhaps by building temporary causeways or waiting for winter frosts to harden the ground. This human-scale explanation is one of sweat, time, and staggering perseverance across generations, so we are presented with two starkly different narratives. One is a story of divine or alien intervention, a gift of impossible technology. The other is a story of profound human achievement, a testament to what can be accomplished with simple tools and unwavering collective will. Which story you find more believable may depend less on the stones themselves and more on what you believe about the people who moved them. The alien argument does not stop at transportation. It confronts the very intelligence embedded in the stones. Look beyond the physical effort and examine the design itself. The layout of Stonehenge is not a random arrangement of massive rocks. It is a precise geometric and astronomical instrument. From the alien perspective, this is the most damning evidence of all. How could a people from the late Stone Age, without a written number system, possibly encode such sophisticated principles? Researchers have long noted that the monument's blueprint seems to incorporate advanced mathematical concepts. Some analyses suggest the use of a standardized unit of measurement, a Neolithic yardstick, used consistently across the site. Others point to the potential use of Pythagorean triangles, geometric shapes defined by a mathematical theorem that would not be formally documented for over 2,000 years after Stonehenge was built. The idea that these builders were using a complex understanding of right angles and ratios to lay out their sacred circle seems, to proponents of the ancient astronaut theory, an anachronism. It is like finding a microchip in a medieval castle. The technology simply does not belong to that time. This perceived knowledge gap extends powerfully to the heavens. Tracking the sun's solstice positions is one thing, but some researchers believe Stonehenge also tracks the much slower, more complex cycle of the moon. The moon's orbit has an 18.6-year cycle, where its rising and setting points on the horizon slowly shift from one extreme to another. Incredibly, the arrangement of the 56 Aubrey holes and the 4 station stones may map this long, subtle lunar cycle. To discover this requires not just patient observation, but generations of dedicated, accurate record-keeping and a systematic method to pass that knowledge down. For the ancient alien theory, this is the final, unbridgeable gap. How could a pre-literate society maintain such precise astronomical data over centuries without error? The proposal is stark. This was not a human discovery, it was a human lesson. The knowledge was a gift, a transfer of information from a more advanced civilization that had already mapped the cosmos. These extraterrestrial visitors, appearing as gods or luminous beings, provided the blueprint. They gave our ancestors the geometric rules and the celestial coordinates, turning a construction project into a permanent stone textbook. In this view, the Neolithic people were not the architects of this knowledge. They were the apprentices, following divine instructions to build a machine they only partially understood. This transforms Stonehenge from a human achievement into a cosmic classroom, and its silent stones become the enduring lesson plan. This blueprint theory presents a fascinating middle ground. It suggests a partnership, not a replacement. In this version of events, our ancestors were not passive observers of a miracle. they were the essential workforce for a grand, otherworldly project. Imagine a construction site overseen by an advanced project manager. The extraterrestrial visitors, possessing knowledge far beyond the Neolithic world, arrive with the completed architectural plans. They understand celestial mechanics, advanced geometry, and structural engineering, but moving and shaping 80-ton stones, even for them, might require local resources, a massive labor force familiar with the terrain. So they enlist the people already living on Salisbury Plain. These humans provide the brute strength, the thousands of hands needed to haul ropes and position logs. They use their own stone and antler tools to perform the fine dressing under precise instruction. This theory cleverly accounts for the very human fingerprints we find at the site. The tool marks on the stones, the remains of seasonal settlements like Durrington Walls nearby, which suggest a vast temporary workforce gathered for a great purpose. It reconciles the evidence of immense human effort with the perceived impossibility of the design itself. The people were not the architects, but they were the builders, following a celestial blueprint they could scarcely comprehend. What was the purpose of this collaboration? Some speculations take a more functional turn. Perhaps Stonehenge was not a temple or a calendar at all, but something far more pragmatic for its otherworldly designers. The unique arrangement of giant stones, the precise alignments, could have served as a landing beacon for spacecraft, a recognizable pattern visible from the sky to guide ships to a safe landing zone. Others propose it was a kind of communication device or power generator, using the piezoelectric properties of the bluestones, which generate a small electrical charge under pressure, to channel Earth energies or send signals across vast distances. In this view, the monument is a piece of installed technology, and the human laborers were simply helping to assemble the equipment. This idea transforms the narrative completely. It means every hammerstone blow, every hauling chant was part of an interstellar project. The workers might have believed they were serving gods, building a gateway to the heavens, while in reality they were assembling a cosmic utility. It is a story that gives humans a role but denies them the genius of the idea. It asks us to consider whether the greatest monuments of our past are testaments to our own ingenuity, or merely the footprints of a teacher who has long since left the classroom. Yet for every grand theory of cosmic teachers, there is a powerful and grounded counter-argument rising from the very soil of Salisbury Plain. Mainstream archaeology does not see a mystery that requires alien intervention. It sees a story of profound human achievement waiting to be told. This narrative is built not on speculation, but on decades of meticulous excavation, where every shard of pottery and every animal bone adds a verse to an epic poem of Neolithic ingenuity. The evidence points not to a single miraculous construction event, but to a slow, deliberate, and evolving project that spanned over 1,500 years. This was not a task completed in a lifetime, but a sacred duty passed from grandparent to child, a cultural project that defined a civilization. The true scale of this human endeavor comes into focus just a few miles northeast of the Stone Circle, at a site called Durrington Walls. Here, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a vast seasonal settlement, a Neolithic boomtown that sprang to life during the winter months. The evidence is breathtaking in its mundanity. They have found the foundations of hundreds of small houses, the litter of countless stone tools, and most tellingly, enormous quantities of animal bones, particularly from pigs. Analysis of the bones reveals something remarkable. The animals were slaughtered at just 9 months old, pointing to a mass cull every single winter. This was not a typical village. This was a festival site, a place of pilgrimage. Picture the scene as the shortest days approached. People from all across Britain would travel to this plain, driving their livestock with them. They gathered not just to work, but to feast, to celebrate, to reaffirm their shared identity and their connection to the cosmos. These were not primitive slaves toiling under alien masters. They were a complex, organized society capable of planning a year in advance, mobilizing a workforce of thousands, and sustaining them through months of communal labor and celebration. The construction of Stonehenge was woven into the very fabric of their spiritual and social lives. It was an act of faith, community, and generational purpose. The monument itself shows this evolution, beginning as a simple circular ditch and evolving through timber structures before the first stones were ever raised. Every step was a learning process, a testament to trial, error, and accumulated knowledge. The perfect joints and celestial alignments were not a downloaded blueprint, but a hard-won victory, the culmination of centuries of observation, experimentation, and cultural memory. This human story is one of staggering resilience and collective intelligence. It asks us to reconsider what we think is possible, not by looking to the stars for answers, but by looking deeper into the capabilities of our own ancestors. Theirs was a genius born of necessity, patience, and an unbreakable connection to their world. The most compelling rebuttal to the alien theory comes not from textbooks, but from mud, sweat, and human muscle. In the 1990s, a remarkable project took shape. A Welsh engineer named Mark Whitby and a team of archaeologists decided to put the ancient methods to the ultimate test. Their goal was not to speculate, but to demonstrate, could a group of modern people, using only tools and techniques available in the Neolithic era, actually move and raise a massive stone? They called it the Stonehenge Project. They did not use a real Sarsen stone, which would have been impossible to source and risk, but instead crafted a concrete replica weighing a very real 25 tons. Then they went to work. The team constructed a massive wooden sledge from felled oak trees. They laid a track of smoothed, greased timber rails. With a system of ropes made from natural fibers, a crew of around 130 volunteers began to pull. It was backbreaking, slow, and required immense coordination, but it worked. Over several days, they hauled that multi-ton block across the countryside. The next challenge was even more daunting, raising it upright. Here, they employed another Neolithic-style innovation, a towering frame lift made from timber. Using levers, ropes, and a counterweight system, they painstakingly inched the stone vertical, then carefully guided it into a prepared hole. Finally, they used a similar method to lift a lintel stone onto the top, completing a small, perfect trilithon. The experiment was a stunning success. It was loud, messy, and physically exhausting, but it proved one thing beyond doubt: the engineering was humanly possible. Other experiments have reinforced this. Teams have shown that a sledge on greased rails reduces the pulling force needed dramatically. They have demonstrated how rocking a stone with wooden levers can walk it across the ground, or how a simple timber crib can lift a massive weight inch by inch. These are not theories on a whiteboard, they are physical proofs in the real world. They show that what seems impossible from a distance becomes a solvable series of practical problems when you break it down. The experiments do not claim it was easy or fast, or that we know every single step they took. They simply demonstrate feasibility. They replace the word impossible with the word difficult, and in that shift, they return the story of Stonehenge from the realm of cosmic mystery to the realm of human triumph. The stones did not move by anti-gravity. They moved because people decided they would move. The debate over how Stonehenge was built is only a prelude to the deeper question of why. What purpose could possibly justify 15 centuries of backbreaking labor? Mainstream archaeology offers not one answer, but a rich tapestry of possibilities, each revealing a different facet of the complex, deeply human culture that created it. The most enduring theory is that Stonehenge was, first and foremost, a temple. Its precise alignment with the solstices points to a center for sun worship, a place where the community could gather to witness the sun's rebirth at the winter solstice or celebrate its peak power in summer. This was not passive observation, it was an active, vital ritual. The success of their crops, the very rhythm of their lives, depended on these celestial events. Stonehenge provided a permanent, awe-inspiring stage for ceremonies that connected the people directly to the forces governing their world. Yet recent excavations have uncovered a darker, more intimate layer to this sacred space. Stonehenge is also one of the largest Neolithic cemeteries ever found in Britain. The cremated remains of perhaps hundreds of individuals have been discovered in the Aubrey holes and the surrounding ditch. These were not common burials, but likely a select group of elite individuals, perhaps ancestral leaders or revered spiritual figures. This transforms the site from a simple temple into a realm of the ancestors, a bridge between the living community and the generations that came before. The cycle of the sun above was mirrored by the cycle of life and death commemorated within the circle. The monument became a focal point for memory, lineage, and the belief in an afterlife, anchoring the identity of the living to those who built it. A third compelling theory adds another dimension, that of healing. This idea centers on the magical Bluestones. Their extraordinary journey from the mystical Preseli Hills suggests they were considered intrinsically powerful, objects of veneration in their own right. Folklore from the Preseli region speaks of stones with curative properties, and some archaeologists propose that Stonehenge was a prehistoric Lourdes. The sick and injured may have traveled great distances to touch the Bluestones or to collect shavings from them, believing in their power to cure ailments. This turns the monument into a hospital of faith, where the geology of a distant Welsh mountain was believed to hold life-giving energy. When you combine these functions, a stunning picture emerges. Stonehenge was likely all of these things: a temple for the sun, a tomb for the ancestors, and a hospital for the sick. It was a multi-functional sacred hub, the spiritual heart of a vast region. This profound complexity, this layering of meaning over millennia, speaks to a deep, evolving, and entirely human significance. It was not built to fulfill a single alien instruction, but to serve the myriad needs of a living, breathing, believing society. The stones held their hopes, their fears, and their deepest questions about life, death, and the cosmos. The true scale of human effort at Stonehenge is measured not in tons, but in centuries. To understand this, we need to step away from the finished monument and look at its blueprint in time. Modern scientific dating methods, like radiocarbon analysis of antler picks and animal bones left at the site, have revealed a staggering truth. Stonehenge was not built in a decade or even a lifetime. Its construction unfolded in a series of major phases over more than 1,500 years. That is a span of time longer than from the fall of the Roman Empire to today. This immense timeline is perhaps the most powerful argument against a single, otherworldly construction event. The story begins around 3,000 years before the Common Era. This first phase had nothing to do with giant stones. Instead, people used tools made from deer antlers to dig a massive circular ditch and bank, creating a great henge enclosure. Just inside this bank, they dug a ring of 56 pits, now known as the Aubrey holes. These likely held tall wooden posts or perhaps the cremated remains of the dead. This was a sacred space defined by earth and timber, a place for gathering and ceremony that would set the stage for everything to come, centuries past. Around 2,500 years before the Common Era, the site transformed. This is when the first stones arrived, the smaller Bluestones from Wales. They were initially arranged in a double circle at the center of the site. Imagine the awe of that generation, seeing the first foreign stones raised within their ancestral earthwork. But this arrangement did not last. The design was in flux, a work in progress. The iconic Stonehenge we recognize finally took shape around 2,500 years before the Common Era. This was the Grand Sarsen phase. The huge grey stones from the Marlborough Downs were dragged to the site and shaped with immense skill. The giant outer circle and inner horseshoe of trilithons were erected. Then, in a fascinating twist, the earlier Bluestones were rearranged, moved inside the new Sarsen framework. This final layout, this masterpiece of stone, was the culmination of generations of knowledge, tradition, and changing beliefs. This slow, evolutionary timeline tells a profoundly human story. It is not the story of a finished blueprint delivered from the stars and executed on command. It is a story of cultural momentum. One generation dug the ditch. Their great-great-grandchildren experimented with the first stone circle. Centuries later, their descendants, armed with the accumulated knowledge and social organization of all who came before, achieved the final, breathtaking form. Each phase built literally and figuratively on the last. This long, patient, iterative process is the fingerprint of a living, evolving human culture, not the signature of a one-time alien intervention. The stones did not arrive according to an external schedule. They grew from the soil of human tradition, season by season, generation by generation. The timeline of Stonehenge reveals a culture in motion, but to see its true genius, we must pull back the lens. This monument never stood in isolation. It was the brilliant centerpiece of a vast, sacred landscape meticulously engineered by the same society. Scattered across Salisbury Plain are the echoes of their world, a network of ceremonial sites that together form one of the most sophisticated ritual complexes ever built. Just 20 miles to the north lies Avebury, a henge so massive it dwarfs Stonehenge in scale. Its circular bank and ditch enclose an entire village, and within it stood a great outer circle of 100 Sarsen stones with 2 smaller inner circles. While less precisely dressed than Stonehenge's stones, the sheer ambition of Avebury is staggering. It speaks of a culture capable of coordinating labor on a regional, even continental scale. Then there is Woodhenge, discovered just 2 miles from Stonehenge itself. Here, instead of stone, the builders erected concentric rings of massive timber posts, creating a great wooden temple that likely predated the stone circle. This proves they were master architects in wood long before they committed their designs to permanent stone. These sites were not separate kingdoms, they were connected. Running from the River Avon to Stonehenge is a wide, processional pathway known as the Avenue, its parallel banks guiding people toward the Great Circle. Similar ceremonial avenues link other henges, suggesting prescribed routes for pilgrimages and rituals that moved across the countryside with the seasons. This interconnectedness is the final, powerful argument against seeing Stonehenge as an anomalous puzzle. You cannot look at this engineered landscape, this sacred geography of aligned avenues, timber circles, and colossal earthworks, and still claim it was a one-off project directed by outsiders. This was the work of a unified, visionary society with a deep understanding of their environment and a shared spiritual vision. They transformed an entire region into a stage for their beliefs, connecting the heavens above with the rivers and chalklands below. Stonehenge was their crowning achievement, yes, but it was born from a culture rich enough to imagine it and organized enough to build it over generations. The stones are not a solitary mystery, they are the most enduring chapter in a much longer story written across the land itself. Long before the idea of ancient astronauts, people looked at Stonehenge and told a different kind of story. They saw a work so grand, so beyond ordinary human effort, that its creation could only belong to the realm of myth and magic. In the swirling mists of medieval legend, the most famous tale does not involve aliens but a wizard. The story goes that the great stones were originally a healing circle, a magical ring of giants located in Ireland. After a terrible battle, the British King Aurelius Ambrosius wished to build a monument to his fallen nobles. His advisor, the wizard Merlin, suggested they retrieve this magical Irish circle. Using his immense powers and clever engineering, Merlin directed an army to dismantle the stones. He then magically floated them across the sea to Salisbury Plain, where they were re-erected as a memorial. This legend, recorded by the 12th century chronicler Geoffrey of Monmouth, gave the people of his time an answer that made sense within their world, a world of saints, sorcerers, and divine intervention. Merlin did not need anti-gravity, he had enchantment. other folktales offered different supernatural architects. Some said the stones were placed by a race of ancient giants, beings of immense strength who could play with such rocks as if they were pebbles. Another persistent story claims the devil himself built Stonehenge. In one version, he transported the stones from Ireland, swearing to use them to build a monument in a single night. An old woman spying on him cried out that she could see him, and the rooster crowed, breaking the spell and leaving the stones forever unfinished where they lay. This idea of a trickster figure, a supernatural being whose work was interrupted, explained both the monument's grandeur and its seemingly chaotic state. These stories are not mere fanciful tales. They represent a fundamental human impulse. When confronted with something truly awe-inspiring and unexplained, we reach for the most powerful forces we know in our cultural vocabulary. For medieval Britons, that vocabulary was filled with wizards, giants, and biblical adversaries. They looked at the silent, towering stones and asked the same question we do today: how could this be here? Their answer was not one of alien engineers, but of mythic beings from their own spiritual landscape. This tradition of attributing the inexplicable to the supernatural is a thread that runs unbroken through human history. The alien hypothesis, in many ways, is simply the latest chapter in this long tradition. We have replaced Merlin's magic with interstellar travel, swapped the devil for gray-skinned visitors from another star. The language has changed, updated with the technology of our age, but the core impulse remains identical. We see a marvel that challenges our understanding of the past, and we instinctively populate that gap with beings of greater power and knowledge. It is a testament not to the truth of any one theory, but to the enduring, haunting power of the stones themselves. They compel every generation that sees them to tell a story about where they came from, and in doing so, we reveal just as much about ourselves and our own view of the universe. Our ancestors looked to giants and wizards for answers, but we have crafted a new mythology for the space age. The ancient astronaut theory is not just a fringe idea, it is a cultural phenomenon because it speaks to something deep within us. At its core, it is powered by a simple, seductive logic known as the argument from ignorance. The formula goes like this: we do not yet fully understand how a specific ancient feat was accomplished. Therefore, it must be impossible for those people to have done it. Therefore, the only explanation is an outside, superior intelligence. This logic turns every gap in our archaeological knowledge into a blank check for speculation. It replaces the hard, often incomplete work of science with a single, thrilling answer. The theory offers a dramatic shortcut, a way to bypass the messy, incremental, and frankly less glamorous story of human trial and error. It is far more exciting to envision a sleek starship lowering a bluestone into place than to picture generations of people hauling it on greased logs. One is a scene from a science fiction epic, the other is a story of gritty perseverance. Our brains are wired for narratives, and the ancient astronaut story provides a clear protagonist, a mysterious teacher, and a cosmic purpose. It transforms cold, silent stones into props in an interstellar drama where humanity plays a special, chosen role. This taps into another profound longing, the romantic idea of a lost golden age or a connection to something greater in the cosmos. The notion that our distant past was visited by enlightened beings suggests we were once part of a grand, universal community. It implies that the seeds of our civilization, or even our very existence, might have a stellar origin. This is a powerful and comforting narrative, especially in a vast, seemingly indifferent universe. It makes us feel less alone and our history feel more significant. There is also an undeniable appeal in imagining advanced prehistoric civilizations, whether human or alien, that possessed secrets we have since forgotten. This idea of lost knowledge speaks to a nagging sense that our linear view of progress might be flawed, that perhaps greatness was achieved long ago and then swept away by time or catastrophe. Engaging with these ideas is intellectually stimulating and genuinely fun. They expand the boundaries of what we consider possible and challenge established institutions. But this is where a critical distinction must be made. The difference between a fascinating thought experiment and historical theory rests entirely on the strength of the evidence. While the ancient astronaut narrative answers our desire for wonder, it consistently fails to provide the kind of proof that archaeology demands: tangible, verifiable, and reproducible. It asks us to accept an extraordinary conclusion based primarily on the absence of a complete ordinary explanation. Yet, those gaps in our knowledge are not static. They are constantly being filled by new discoveries, like the worker settlements at Durrington Walls or the successful moving experiments with Neolithic technology. Each find chips away at the foundation of impossibility that the theory requires, so we are left with a choice between two very different kinds of stories. One is a soaring myth of cosmic intervention that makes us feel connected to the stars. The other is an earthbound epic of human ingenuity, collaboration, and slow, determined progress across generations. One offers the comfort of a simple answer, while the other offers the deeper, more challenging satisfaction of a truth earned through relentless human effort. Which story you find more compelling may ultimately depend on what you believe about humanity itself. The romantic notion of alien architects is a story written in the stars, but the most convincing evidence is being unearthed from the Earth itself. In the 21st century, the mystery of Stonehenge is not being solved by looking up, but by looking down with technology that lets us see through time. A revolutionary scientific endeavor called the Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes Project began to scan the ground around the monument, not with shovels, but with ground-penetrating radar and other remote sensing techniques. This technology works like a medical scanner for the landscape, sending pulses of energy into the soil and reading the echoes that bounce back from buried features. It reveals what lies beneath the surface without disturbing a single blade of grass. What these scans uncovered was nothing short of a historical earthquake. The rolling fields around the iconic stone circle, long thought to be empty pasture, were in fact a crowded necropolis and a hive of ancient activity. The radar maps revealed a staggering constellation of over 15 previously unknown monuments and hundreds of deep pits, some aligned with the solstice sunrise. They found evidence of massive timber structures, smaller satellite shrines, and processional pathways crisscrossing the land. One of the most startling finds was a row of more than 60 enormous pits, each over 10 feet deep, forming a boundary that seems to have marked a sacred zone around the Durrington Walls settlement. This was not a random scattering of features, it was a meticulously organized ceremonial complex, all centered on the stone circle. This discovery is a game changer. It completely dismantles the idea of Stonehenge as an isolated anomaly, a lone puzzle piece that does not fit the human story. Instead, it shows the monument as the brilliant, shining core of a vast and sophisticated ritual landscape, all conceived and constructed by the same culture over millennia. The sheer density of these structures speaks of a society with incredible organizational power, spiritual depth, and a sustained vision that lasted for generations. Every new pit, every buried post hole is another stroke in a grand masterpiece of human landscape engineering. This is not the footprint of a one-time visit from star travelers who left a single monument and departed. This is the fingerprint of a thriving, complex civilization that was deeply invested in this place, shaping every hill and valley for miles around to reflect their beliefs. The stones were just the most durable part of a much larger and more beautiful human creation, now finally coming back into view. The most powerful evidence against cosmic intervention is not found at Stonehenge, but 200 miles away in the misty Preseli Hills of Wales. Here, nestled in the rugged landscape, lie the actual birthplaces of the Bluestones. At two specific sites, Carn Godog and Craig Rose Y Felin, archaeologists have uncovered something extraordinary: the unmistakable and tangible fingerprints of Neolithic miners. This is not speculation or theory, it is the hard-ground truth. Teams working at these quarries discovered not just the geological match for the stones, but the full, messy workshop of their extraction. They found stone tools, hammerstones made of hard rock, left exactly where they were dropped. They uncovered simple stone wedges that were driven into natural fissures in the rock face to pry loose slabs. They even identified artificial stone platforms, carefully built to provide a stable working surface for the teams as they worked to detach the prized pillars. This is the scene of deliberate, skilled labor, not a magical harvesting of stones by otherworldly technology. Perhaps the most telling discovery of all came from Craig Rowe's wife, Ellen. Researchers found a flat, recessed area at the base of the outcrop, a kind of natural loading bay. On this platform, they uncovered the very bluestone pillars that had been prepared for transport, still lying where they were abandoned millennia ago. This is a snapshot frozen in time, a project in mid-flow. It shows the process step by step, from quarrying the stone to dressing it roughly on site to moving it to a staging area for its long journey. This evidence is devastating to the idea that aliens simply plucked the stones from the mountainside. Why would an advanced civilization need to use primitive stone hammers and wooden wedges? Why would they build earthen platforms? The archaeology paints a clear and human picture, one of perseverance, ingenuity, and immense effort. These quarries prove that the journey of the Bluestones did not begin with a levitation device, but with the determined strike of a hammerstone against rock, a human decision echoing across the centuries. The quarries in Wales give us the how, but the story of the why and the who comes alive just 2 miles from the stone circle itself. At a site known as Durrington Walls, archaeologists from the Stonehenge Riverside project peeled back the turf and uncovered something far more revealing than any tool mark. They found the builder's village. This was not a permanent town, but a vast, seasonal encampment that erupted into life during the winter months, precisely when the great stones would have been moved across the frozen, firmer ground. The scale of the discovery is humbling. They unearthed the remains of small, sturdy houses, their chalk floors and post holes outlining simple dwellings. But the true character of this place is told in its garbage. The team excavated not hundreds, but thousands upon thousands of animal bones, primarily from pigs and cattle. Analysis of the teeth from these bones provided a stunningly precise calendar. The animals were all slaughtered at just 9 months old at the time of the midwinter solstice. This was not a settlement, it was a festival. Picture the scene as the shortest day approached. People from all across Britain would converge on this plain, driving their herds before them. The air would have been thick with wood smoke from countless hearths, ringing with the sounds of celebration, of communal feasting on a truly industrial scale. They gathered to eat, to drink, to reaffirm social bonds, and to honor the ancestors, all while marshalling the immense workforce needed for the next phase of construction at the nearby stone circle. This is the most powerful human rebuttal to the alien hypothesis imaginable. It is evidence not of a passive workforce following alien orders, but of a vibrant, complex society engaged in a profound cultural project. The pottery found scattered among the houses, decorated in local styles, shows they brought their traditions with them. The organization required to coordinate this annual pilgrimage, to manage the food supply for thousands, to orchestrate the labor, speaks of sophisticated social structures and shared religious belief. This was a society capable of long-term planning and monumental collective effort. The stones of Stonehenge did not rise in a vacuum. They were raised by the hands of people who also built homes, raised families, and came together under the winter sky to feast and celebrate their place in the cosmos. The alien theory asks us to see a mystery that requires outside explanation, but Durrington Walls shows us a community with all the motivation, organization, and sheer human spirit necessary to achieve the impossible. The allure of a lost teacher is not limited to visitors from the stars. Another powerful thread of alternative thought looks not to the cosmos but to the deep past of our own planet. This theory asks a compelling question: what if an advanced human civilization, now completely forgotten, once walked the Earth? The most famous version of this idea is, of course, the legend of Atlantis, a sophisticated island empire said to have sunk beneath the waves in a single day and night. Proponents of this view suggest that survivors of such a cataclysm could have traveled the world, sharing their advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and mathematics with simpler cultures. In this narrative, the builders of Stonehenge were not inventing these techniques, they were inheriting them, applying the leftover blueprints from a golden age that vanished without a trace. It is a romantic and tragic story, one that places the roots of human genius in a time before history. The problem, however, is a complete lack of evidence. No archaeological find has ever concretely proven the existence of a global, technologically advanced civilization in the deep past that matches these descriptions. While fascinating as a myth, the Atlantis theory remains firmly in the realm of speculation, a story we tell to fill the same gaps that the ancient astronaut theory tries to fill, just with a different cast of characters. A more persistent terrestrial alternative focuses on the land itself, on invisible forces that our ancestors might have sensed but we have largely forgotten. This is the world of ley lines and earth energies. Ley lines are said to be straight alignments connecting ancient sites, churches, and landmarks across the countryside, forming a mysterious network on the landscape. Some researchers and dowsers believe these lines mark flows of telluric energy, a natural power emanating from the Earth itself. From this perspective, Stonehenge was not built at random. It sits at a powerful confluence of these energy lines, a node in a planetary grid. The purpose of the monument then shifts dramatically. It becomes a kind of acupuncture point for the Earth, a device built from specific stones to amplify, channel, or harvest this subtle energy. The Bluestones, with their alleged healing properties and unique geological makeup, are often central to this idea. Perhaps they were chosen not just for their color, but because they acted as conductors or batteries for this terrestrial force. This theory keeps the explanation firmly on Earth, but it trades physical engineering for a kind of metaphysical science. It suggests our ancestors perceived the world in a way we have lost, sensing vibrations and energies that our modern instruments struggle to measure. While mainstream science remains skeptical, often pointing out that ley lines can be drawn between any number of points if you try hard enough, the idea endures. It speaks to a deep intuition that these ancient sites are connected by something more than coincidence, and that they were placed with an intention that goes beyond mere astronomy or burial. They were tapping into the very pulse of the planet. Whether you see it as pseudoscience or forgotten wisdom, this theory represents another human attempt to understand the profound intentionality behind these stones, seeking answers not in the sky or in a sunken continent, but in the living rock beneath our feet. The dramatic question of alien builders thrives in the modern media landscape, a place where mystery often outweighs methodology. Television shows dedicated to the ancient astronaut theory have mastered a compelling form of storytelling. They present history not as a settled record, but as an ongoing detective story, with each unexplained detail a potential clue to a cosmic conspiracy. The narrative is built on a powerful rhetorical technique, a cascade of speculative questions. Could it be that the Bluestones were moved using anti-gravity technology? Is it possible the builders received a celestial blueprint? Might this circle be a message for future generations? This language does not claim to have definitive answers. Instead, it expertly cultivates doubt. It invites the viewer to become the investigator, to connect the dots in a way that feels personally revelatory. The presentation is sleek, fast-paced, and visually stunning, cutting between dramatic reenactments of glowing spacecraft and sweeping aerial shots of ancient monuments. Unexplained gaps in the archaeological record are not presented as puzzles to be solved by future digging, but as definitive proof that the standard story is wrong. This approach is incredibly effective entertainment. It transforms a field trip through dusty textbooks into a global adventure thriller with stakes that span the galaxy. It feels exciting, subversive, and deeply engaging. In contrast, the real work of archaeology unfolds at a profoundly different pace. It is a science of soil stains and carbon dates, of patiently mapping post holes and analyzing animal bone fragments. A major discovery might be a new reading of tool marks on a single stone, or the realization that a settlement was occupied seasonally rather than year-round. These are monumental breakthroughs for understanding the past, but they rarely make for gripping television. There are no sudden reveals, no smoking guns, just the slow, meticulous accumulation of evidence that gradually reshapes a narrative built over decades. Academic papers are cautious, filled with qualifiers like suggests, indicates, and possibly, reflecting the inherent uncertainty of interpreting a 5,000-year-old society. This necessary nuance lacks the visceral punch of a narrator asking if we have been lied to about our own history. So the alien theory persists not necessarily because of its evidence, but because of its story. It offers a grand, unified, and emotionally satisfying narrative in a single episode, while archaeology offers a complex, fragmented, and ever-evolving story written over a lifetime of quiet work. One is designed for the spotlight, the other is conducted in the trenches, and in our age of instant information, the spotlight is always more captivating. The verdict from the scientific community is clear and unanimous. After more than a century of modern excavation, radiocarbon dating, and landscape analysis, the overwhelming consensus among archaeologists is that Stonehenge is a profoundly human achievement. The alien hypothesis, while a captivating story, is rejected not out of closed-mindedness, but because the physical evidence points so decisively in another direction. This conclusion rests on 4 pillars of proof that together form an unshakable foundation. First is the timeline. Stonehenge was not built in a day or even a century. Its construction unfolded in distinct phases over more than 1,500 years, evolving from a simple earthwork to a timber circle, and finally to the stone monument we see today. This gradual, iterative development is the hallmark of a living culture learning and adapting, not the execution of a pre-delivered alien blueprint. Second are the experimental proofs. Modern replicas have demonstrated that the methods available to Neolithic people, from sledges and rollers to timber frames, are entirely capable of moving and raising these massive stones. It was difficult, but it was possible. Third is the discovery of the human fingerprints. The quarries in Wales show the tool marks of the miners. The vast seasonal settlement at Durrington Walls reveals the festival-like gatherings of the builders. This is not the archaeology of a mystified workforce, but of a motivated, organized society. Finally, Stonehenge does not stand alone. It is the centerpiece of a vast, interconnected sacred landscape filled with henges, avenues, and burial mounds built by the same culture. This context shows a society deeply invested in shaping their world according to their beliefs. The mainstream view is not a boring alternative to a thrilling mystery. It is, in many ways, a more astonishing story. It tells us that our ancestors, with patience, cooperation, and a deep connection to the sky and land, achieved the impossible across generations. They were not waiting for instructions from the stars, they were writing their own epic in stone. Ultimately, the debate over Stonehenge's origins is about more than stones and stars. It is a mirror we hold up to our own view of human history. When we ask, was it aliens, we are not just solving a puzzle. We are making a profound statement about the capabilities of our ancestors. This question, however thrilling, carries an unintended consequence. It risks reducing the Neolithic people of Britain to primitive bystanders, waiting for a superior intelligence to show them what to do. It underestimates the breathtaking scope of human ingenuity, the power of shared belief, and the generational will that can move literal mountains. The true wonder of Stonehenge is not that it might have been built by visitors from another world, but that it was absolutely built by people from this one. Their story is one of staggering communal effort. Think of the winter feasts at Durrington Walls, where thousands gathered not as slaves, but as celebrants in a sacred project. Consider the patient knowledge passed from elder to child, mapping the slow dance of the moon over decades. Picture the quiet genius of the first engineer who realized a tongue and groove joint in wood could be replicated in 25-ton stone. This was not a people lacking intelligence. This was a culture rich with it, expressing a sophisticated understanding of their world through the most durable medium they could conceive. The alien theory offers a shortcut, a way to resolve our own discomfort with gaps in the historical record. But in doing so, it steals the credit from the very minds and hands that earned it. The deeper, more challenging, and ultimately more inspiring mystery is this: how did early human societies, without kings or empires as we know them, organize themselves to achieve such monumental works of art, astronomy, and engineering across centuries? How did they maintain a vision so powerful that it outlived every individual who first imagined it? That question places humanity at the center of its own epic. It suggests that cooperation, cultural memory, and a drive to connect with the cosmos are not modern inventions, but ancient, fundamental parts of who we are. The stones of Stonehenge do not mark a landing pad for extraterrestrials. They stand as a permanent memorial to human ambition. They remind us that long before written history, people were capable of extraordinary collaboration and vision. That is a legacy far more powerful than any alien visitation, for it belongs to all of us, a testament to what humanity can achieve when we work together toward a common celestial dream. So we have traveled from the stars back down to the earth, from cosmic blueprints to chalk and antler tools. The alien hypothesis is a magnificent story, a modern myth that speaks to our love of mystery and the unknown. It offers a thrilling shortcut, a way to solve the puzzle of the stones with a single, spectacular answer. Yet, when we follow the evidence, it leads us not to a landing pad, but to a festival ground. It points not to silent spacecraft, but to the sounds of feasting and labor at Durrington Walls. It reveals not a downloaded design, but a slow, 1,500-year evolution of human thought and tradition. The how of Stonehenge will always have fascinating gaps, questions about specific techniques and routes that keep archaeologists awake at night. But the who is no longer a matter of serious debate. The builders were us. They were human beings with all the same capacity for wonder, collaboration, and stubborn determination that we possess today. They looked at the same night sky we do, felt the same turning of the seasons, and asked the same profound questions about life, death, and their place in the universe. Their answer was not to wait for a sign from above, but to build one themselves. They dragged 80-ton stones across 20 miles of wilderness because they believed it mattered. They carved perfect joints with stone hammers because they sought perfection. They aligned their monument with the solstice sun because they wanted to touch the rhythm of the cosmos. This is not a lesser story because it lacks extraterrestrials. It is a greater one. It is the story of what human communities can achieve when united by a shared vision that spans generations. Stonehenge endures not as a relic of alien visitors, but as a monument to human ambition. It is a testament to ingenuity, to perseverance, and to our eternal, beautiful desire to reach for the heavens, using nothing but our own hands, our own minds, and our own unbreakable will. The stones stand silent, but their message echoes through time, a powerful reminder that the greatest mysteries are often solved not by looking for outside saviors, but by recognizing the profound potential within ourselves. The choice between these two stories is ultimately yours to make. We have walked the ground from the Welsh quarries to the festival fields of Durrington Walls, and we have weighed the evidence under the same solstice sun our ancestors revered. Now I want to hear your verdict. Down in the comments, tell me what you believe. Does the human story of generations, grit, and communal genius feel complete to you? Or does a part of you still wonder if the stars hold a missing piece of this ancient puzzle? Share your own theory, or tell me what single detail from this mystery fascinates you the most. If you crave more journeys into the heart of history's greatest enigmas, be sure to subscribe. We explore the past not to find simple answers, but to uncover the profound questions that connect us across time. So I will leave you with this final thought to ponder. Which idea truly stirs your sense